introduce us. That's the wrong screen, so that's cool.
All right, it is Tuesday night, and that means another episode of Goal Horns and Fight Songs. The last one before we crown our automatic bid champion and the champion of the Frozen Face-Off. And of course, as we've been on a streak, we have another special guest with us tonight.
We do. St. Cloud Husky graduate, former contributor for the Rink Live, starting her own thing here recently. I believe it's Clean Sheets Hockey. Founder Sydney Wolf is joining the program. So thank you for taking the time and chatting with us.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me on.
And for those who don't know, Sydney is probably the go-to here in the next couple of months for anything happening in the transfer portal. She does an incredible job keeping us up to date with her Google Docs spreadsheet of both men's and women's transfer portal news, as well as following pretty much anything happening in the hockey world from high school to pro ranks, it seems like.
Yeah, a little bit of whatever sounds interesting to me at the time. So,
Mike and I struggle to follow now 9 teams, soon to be 10. So the fact that you cover as much as you do is rather impressive.
just got to be a sponge. Gotta absorb it all a little bit.
Got to have that dedication and no day job, like quote unquote day job. This can't be like Wes and I were Tuesday nights and just a couple idiots talking hockey.
Hey, well, that's good too.
It's working out for us so far, I think. But yeah, so Huskies, unfortunately, just eliminated from the playoffs here in Kalamazoo by the Western Michigan Broncos, who've been on a tear of late and have made excellent use of the transfer portal, which, again, you do a fantastic job of keeping everybody up to date on. So that's been a fantastic resource for us here when we've talked about guys coming and leaving during the offseason when there's not much else to talk about. So I guess how did it start with the transfer portal being almost your specialty at this point?
Yeah, it was kind of random, to be honest. I started my reporter job with the Rink Live like 3, 4 years ago, and one of the first summer I was there, I just decided to start a spreadsheet keeping track of it for myself, and I put it on Twitter, and I had like no followers on Twitter at that point. And then every day I'd go on the spreadsheet and there'd be more people on there, like the anonymous one would be like anonymous lion or whatever it says when there's people on your Google sheet. And it kind of just blew up. I don't really know how, but I gained a ton of Twitter followers from that. And it was literally just a Google sheet I did in my free time. So kind of random. It just took off a little bit. And then I've been kind of doing it ever since. I think this is my 4th year doing it. So kind of just a weird by chance thing I did to track it myself. And then other people liked it. So I've just kept it up every year. And it's fun. I think transfer portal stuff is really chaotic and I don't know, some good, some bad, but for the most part, it's kind of just fun for me. So thought I would do it again this year because it's always a hot topic in college hockey.
Yeah, I already noticed you had a couple in there to start the year already with teams ending their season
Yeah.
and guys that are entering the transfer portal and gals that are entering the transfer portal. So it's always fun to just we check it constantly in the off season. We're like, okay, what
Yeah.
did Sydney do? What did Sydney do? Like who can we talk about at this point? What players are coming in? Is our team going to be better? Are we like Northern Michigan and we lose literally our whole team?
Yeah, for sure.
It's fun.
Yeah, has there been any big surprises doing it that you like weren't expecting? I guess kind of one for it to take off the way it did, but just like what it's done as far as like who you've been able to talk to, or seeing what schools kind of put the most guys in the portal, or who's most active in the portal the last couple of years. It's been a little bit Western. North Dakota's been happy to jump in there. I'm pretty sure some Hockey East schools have dabbled here and there.
Yeah, I mean, nothing super crazy. The last like 2 years, I want to say, I've tried to do kind of like a recap analysis type story after the portal ends, like in the winter, like around Thanksgiving, to kind of just see like were there any patterns or things like that. Because every year is kind of different. And I think this year it'll be different too, since we don't have the COVID year guys anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's all going to be different. And the NCAA is changing rules now like every year. So every year people ask me questions, and every time it's new rules because they change a lot. I've even heard now they're thinking about letting everybody get 5 years. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but there's a lot of crazy rules and stuff, so changes every year, but no like super crazy things that I've seen really. Just every year it's fun to see kind of who won the portal, you could say, or like who had the best additions, or who kind of lost in the portal, or who lost the most. So that's always fun. It's normally just like teams that have coaching changes and that type of stuff. So not super surprising, I guess, but I mean, like, for example, you guys talk a lot about NCHC stuff. Like Arizona State, I've said, has had like a really good portal year this last year. They picked up so many really good fits for their team and a couple other teams too. But it's always fun to just see kind of who ends up going where, or maybe guys that didn't get a lot of playing time at one school and then they transfer and they end up being kind of like a star somewhere else. I always like hearing those stories and feel good for those guys that, find a good fit for themselves.
Yeah, I know. I think at the beginning of the year, oh, here goes my voice again. Uh, the beginning of the year is we were expecting maybe this year to be down portal wise, just because, like you said, that COVID year is running out, and then they go ahead and they're like, oh, let's open college hockey to CHL players, and if you're joining the House Resolution bill, you're going to limit your roster, so there may still be once again an uptick in guys jumping around conference to conference or team to team this year, and maybe we won't see as much of a fall off as we were expecting to going into the off season. Oh, and then AIC losing their program, they're going to have
Yeah.
a number of guys going to the portal, and their coach is working to do that showcase thing.
Yeah, that'll definitely be interesting to see what happens with that. And then also too with the CHL guys to see if any, maybe lower roster spot guys who maybe aren't the top of their team, maybe if they get not forced into the portal, I want to say, but kind of encouraged to go into the portal. If maybe their team's like, well, we could get a CHL guy and bring them in. I don't know. I'll have to like crunch the numbers next year, but I'll be interested to see if that has kind of any effect on it. I don't know yet.
Well, that's kind of crazy with AIC losing their program because they've been, for the most part, their automatic bid. They have been the conference champion and they have done well in the tournament. So to lose that support for their hockey program is a little bit surprising because there are some good players that do come out of there and they're a good team.
Oh, as a St. Cloud State fan, we know AIC too well
Hmm.
from that game. I was in person at that game a couple of years ago, so we definitely know to take that team seriously because they have obviously been that team that everyone will overlook, and then they'll cause some chaos towards the end of the year.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty happy to see the other
It was
dog team
pretty,
in the state lose.
yeah, that was crazy.
So you went to St. Cloud State, NCHC school. Did you work in the sports communication area of or broadcasting or anything like that? Because we had Kristen Kroll on a couple years ago who followed kind of a similar path, but is doing more the live um, version of or live sports type of thing. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I knew her. She was, I want to say, like 2 years older than me, maybe. But yeah, she did a lot of TV stuff, so I knew her from some of that. But I wasn't as much of a in front of the camera person. I did some of that, but mostly it was for like news broadcasts, so I didn't really do as much with hockey. But I kind of got into hockey on the radio side, actually, and then I always loved writing, so I kind of just combined the two things a little bit and randomly got a reporting job with the Rink Live one day. It was kind of just a random I shooted my shot or shot my shot, however you want to say that, on a job application. I didn't even think I would hear back from them and ended up getting it and working there for a couple of years. So it was kind of a crazy thing I just applied for randomly and got it and then just decided like, okay, well, this is my opportunity. I gotta work my butt off. So I did some hockey stuff at St. Cloud State, but didn't really do a ton of it until later in my time there and then kind of after college getting more into it and just kind of going from Twitter page to then reporter, which is kind of a weird trajectory to be like fan to then media. I don't know. It kind of just happened how it did, but I guess that shows you can just run your own Twitter page and people one day will take you seriously. So kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, Mike and I kind of followed a similar path. We were once part of a rather big Facebook page that was just writing stupid memes or posts or whatever, and then uh, that spawned a friendship between him and I because we were both following our respective college teams. And after the page went away, we're like, screw it, let's do our own thing and let's stick with college hockey because it's what we like a little bit better than the NHL anyway. So that's
Yeah.
how we ended up here and doing this for the last almost 4 years now, 3 4 years.
Yeah, we would just be playing NHL, video game and talking about it. And I'm pretty sure it was Wes's idea. He goes, why don't we just start a podcast and start talking about this? Because regardless, we're going to be talking about it anyway. So might as well try to
Go
build a
for it
following.
then. Yeah, if you already got the conversation.
Exactly. And it's spawned a lot of cool interviews, especially like this one tonight. Get to meet a lot of new people and done a lot of cool things, even though I think I've only met Wes. Yeah, I've only met you twice in person.
That's crazy.
Once,
Once.
no, twice, because
Oh yeah, because
Nashville,
I came with the St.
and
Cloud.
then yeah, you came up to St. Cloud, uh, and you know, close enough drive for me. I was like, I'll go see Wes. Fair enough. I can drive that hour. But it does seem like St. Cloud, just for journalism in general, they have a very good program, whether it be news desk or the sports reporting, especially hockey. Everything is done very well there, and I feel like they're one of the few programs within the country that does it well, and that they allow their students to thrive and experience things.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people love to rip on St. Cloud State or talk about the issues that it has, which, teach their own whatever. But I feel like, yeah, the mass comm program is awesome. Anytime I watch any sort of sports podcast in Minnesota, there's St. Cloud alums working on it, or anywhere I go working on a game of some sort. I run into somebody I went to college with, or I'm trying to do interviews for my website now with guys in junior hockey, and I'll be like, oh, well, I know the media guy in Madison. I know the media guy in Watertown or down in Texas, and I feel like I know so many people just from St. Cloud. So it's really cool that even though sometimes the school might not be doing so great as a whole, sometimes at least the mass comm program is really good if you're doing like radio or reporting or TV or kind of anything in that realm. I know we're good at that. So if you're listening to this and you like media stuff, St. Cloud definitely has good programs for that.
Yeah, and I mean, doing what you're doing, the networking is the name of the game. I mean, you're trying to find any advantage you can. I mean, not to demean anything that you're doing, but I'm just saying, like, you want to know the tidbit before anybody else, and if you've got an
Yeah.
in, and you can get the story out a little bit quicker than the next guy, like that's gonna build your brand and make sure that people know to go and you're a trusted source and put news out the right way. So yeah, to have that leg up and have it start at the infancy of your career and your network grows as your abilities grow and your experience grows. It's definitely something that gets overlooked. I think sometimes people just expect like guys like forget that like guys like Brad Schlossman started the same way. Like you start in these small groups and it just gets bigger and bigger. You can't just jump into the deep end and expect to swim with sharks.
Yeah, I mean, you meet one coach, he'll introduce you to a player who will introduce you to a advisor, and then it kind of just goes on and on and on. And I feel like hockey's sort of a small world to work in sometimes. Like everybody sort of knows everybody once you start meeting people. So that's kind of the fun part about it. It's like somehow this person will know this person from a completely different part of the country, and they'll have some crazy family tie or something. It kind of seems like a small world sometimes when I'm talking to people in hockey.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, no, for sure. Mike kind of figured out how small the hockey world is when we got a chance to talk to Brad Schlossman and realize that their families lived like a block apart from each other.
yep. Yeah.
Crazy.
His his parent or his mom grew up a block and across the street from where I grew up. So that was like, whoa.
Yeah, there's so
Uh,
many stories like that. It's crazy.
uh, I've posed this question to both Kirsten and then also Commissioner Weems, and I'm just curious of your thoughts, especially again being a St. Cloud alum with the program, uh, the NCHC TV, and I know it's a little outside of the
Yeah.
realm that you were doing, but what do you think about just having all student broadcasts for all the programs? Now, Commissioner Weems said she laid out the difficulties it is for the different schools and how to do that.
Yeah.
But what do you think about giving all these students the opportunity to learn and work and run the broadcast themselves? Because Wes and I, over the past couple of years, we've talked about it, and we're still going to pay for it because it's awesome that we can watch all the conference games at once. We're not going to care as much if the production quality isn't a Midco or if it isn't a St. Cloud level production. If these kids are learning, then that's fine. Let them screw up. We're still going to pay. Like they get that experience that, like a lot of jobs, you need this much experience. Well, I can't get experience if nobody will hire me. What do you think about that potential opportunity if all the schools were to opt in? And I'm not trying to put you in a bad spot, criticize
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, that would be really cool if the schools would be able to do it, but I don't know how each school in NCHC, obviously, if they would have like the level production wise to be able to do that or the amount of students. I know not every school has like a big department for mass comm or whatever major they would want to put that on if they have like a specific journalism one or broadcasting or something like that. So I know St. Cloud, everyone says the broadcast is good, but that's because we've really established ourselves as like, well, that's one of the main things you go to St. Cloud for. So if other schools have really small like programs for that, or they might not even really have that very much. I don't know if they'd be able to do it as much necessarily, but I don't know. Broadcasting is so crazy because sometimes you'll get guys who might call themselves professionals who might not honestly be as good as some really talented student broadcasters. So it's kind of a crazy range where I've listened to some professional broadcasts that are not good at all, like not saying on NCHC TV necessarily, but in general. And then sometimes I'll listen to a student and I'm like, wow, that was a great call, or what a good job, or wow, that camera feed is really high quality, or something like that. So and I know too in some arenas there's tricky things sometimes with like how the internet connection is. And I know sometimes internet speed is weird in arenas sometimes because you're in a big box and there's a lot of logistical stuff with everything. So I don't know. I'm all for students getting more opportunities though. And that's what I always liked about St. Cloud. Shout out the guys at KVSC. I listened to their call of a bunch of St. Cloud games this year, or like the series this last weekend at Western. I was listening to their radio call, and I think a lot of students do a really good job. But yeah, I don't know logistically if every school would be able to do it or not, but it'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say the NCHC TV has its issues, but I don't know if it's true to say it that way. Okay, we're good. A lot of it is just like the inconsistency amongst the universities themselves. Like,
Yeah,
so a lot of the time, it's what the university can provide NCHC TV. That's the issue more so than the website itself or I don't know, maybe there's a big game and there's a ton of traffic on the site, but for the most part, it seems to be what they're given as opposed to what they're putting out themselves. So that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you at Western, you guys just pull your radio feed, correct?
yeah, we don't have video play by play or additional play by play. It's Robin Hook and Adam doing the radio show that they just feed the radio audio over the video. But I mean, I wonder if that's going to change here when Western moves to its new arena in a couple years. But I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of change coming when that happens. Maybe the video quality will be a little bit better and things like that. But I mean, even Mullet Arena a couple weeks ago had a big issue where the end of the Western Arizona State game was messed up and couldn't really watch it. So you had to just kind of follow Twitter or listen to the radio to see how that Saturday game ended. And then, I think probably the two top tier ones though are St. Cloud State and North Dakota, just because North Dakota gets the full production, which I think a lot of the guys on their back end are St. Cloud alum running Midco Sports. So,
I
I
know
mean,
they have a couple of them. Yeah.
yeah. So, and then the what actually St. Cloud puts out, but would probably be the top two broadcasts in the conference, and then I think Miami also does radio coverage as their audio, and me and that Miami guy, we've got some issues. He doesn't know it, but I have an issue with him.
You've had issues with Miami dating
Yeah,
back to when you started watching hockey. So
that's true. They are our biggest rival. Not that it's been much of a rivalry lately.
Speaking of you getting started in radio, though, what was your goal in combining the radio? Like when you wanted to do the radio broadcast part, or just being on the radio? Where did you want to end up?
Yeah, I mean, my story was kind of crazy of like I didn't even really care about hockey in high school. I did not, I don't know, I'm a Minnesotan, but I didn't have anyone in my family that played hockey. I didn't watch hockey. I didn't care until I went to St. Cloud and then I started watching it. It was like, oh, this is awesome. And then did mass comm, but I originally was just like a DJ on the radio and did a lot of DJ shows and that was super fun, super cool. So I was like doing that thing and then I was doing some like news broadcasting and then eventually I had some friends that were doing like the calling games for St. Cloud State men's and women's hockey and I do like the intermission reports. I was like, "Oh, I'll try this out. I think I know about hockey now. I'll try it and see how it goes." And I liked it a lot, so did that for a while and then did a couple of like sort of like mixed sports shows at the TV station that we have that would be kind of just like highlights of different Husky sports and did that a little bit, but I've always just been best at writing, so kind of just like reporting was my go-to thing. But yeah, the radio, I did mostly music stuff and didn't really start getting into sports until like later on, but I still do love radio stuff. I don't really do it as much anymore, but yeah, it's kind of where I started and they got great radio stuff at KVSC, which is the St. Cloud State station and a lot of great it's a great way to just kind of get into calling games or doing anything on the air, which is super cool that you can just kind of get into it and do it and learn all that stuff.
I think Ballness and Micheletti should have you on though as the college hockey season winds down on Beyond the Pond and the transfer portal starts to fill
Oh,
up.
yeah.
They better have you because I even saw that your youth hockey hub you'll contribute to that and they'll have I can't remember exactly who it is, but they'll have him on every once in a while on Saturdays.
Yeah, Tony's
Uh,
been going on quite a bit lately, I know.
yeah, so Tony, come on, let's get Sydney
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's see. So you said, did you follow any sports going into then? I mean, you said you weren't a big fan of hockey, but were you still like a football fan, baseball?
You know, I was just kind of a nerd in high school. I just didn't really care. Like my brother was really athletic, so I think I just watched a lot of sports and just kind of didn't, I don't know, I was a nerd. I didn't really play any sports. I just was into like music and like I was on the speech team, so I didn't really follow many sports. I mean, my family was really into sports. They obviously Minnesota Vikings. We watched a lot of Vikings. I watched a lot of like high school basketball games for like my brother or like high school football. But I don't know, I just didn't really care about sports until I got into mass comm stuff and started writing and all that sort of stuff and finding hockey a little bit because my parents didn't watch hockey or really care about hockey. So I just wasn't really exposed to it, which is weird for a person in Minnesota. But started watching it, was like, oh, this is really cool. And just went to like every Huskies game that year, which unfortunately, like we were talking about, AIC was the year that they got upset, but I went to like every game that year, and aside from that game, they played really good that season. So that was a really good season to like get really like become a super fan kind of, because that was a awesome year. I think it was Brett Larson's first year too. So that was a fun season aside from the end in Fargo.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Mike's team's missing Brett Larson a little bit now.
just a little bit, just a touch.
Duluth's finding themselves in a little bit of a slump here lately. But I mean, that's expected to change. Maybe there's some gems in the portal they
What
can
was
find
St.
this
Cloud?
year.
Oh,
So I'm trying to see how bad Western was when I actually started following the team, because they were not good when I got here. Yeah, their first season they were 8-28-3.
okay.
When
Yeah.
I got to campus, they were very, very bad in the old CCHA, but they've been on the rise since, and it's
Oh,
fun
for sure.
to fandom to grow as a team gets better and better. Um, they're the fourth team to capture the Penrose in the conference. Not many do it, so nice to get that one done finally. Um, do you still
Well,
follow? Do you still follow? I mean, games in general, or are you just kind of floating around and following the back end and seeing who's going where?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of doing a little bit of everything now that the season's in full swing. I wasn't following stuff too early at the start of the season just because I had a kid in October, so I kind of was like off the grid for a while because I was in that like new parent, just like trying to sleep as much as I could time. So obviously it's when a game starts at 7:30, I'm gonna be asleep at 8, so I'll I'll try to like watch 20 minutes of it and pass out, but ever since like around Christmas time, then once I like was like, okay, I got this down a little more. Then I've definitely been following a lot of different stuff, but I worked a bunch of the high school tournaments here in Minnesota the past couple of weeks, so was kind of all involved in high school the last couple of weeks, and that's over now. So now it's kind of just college hockey full speed ahead for until it's over, really. I mean, women's is almost over, but then men's for the next couple weeks. So springtime and winter gets a little crazy because it's like girls high school, boys high school in Minnesota, and then the Minnesota youth tournaments, and then like women's college, men's college, all the junior leagues, and then pro. So
Yeah.
it's like the crazy 2 or 3 month stretch in the winter to spring.
Yeah, no, I have a 2-year-old. She just turned 2, so I definitely know the trying to reacclimate
For
to
sure.
life, and somehow she picked her own bedtime after once she finally learned to sleep through the night. She's like, I'm gonna be asleep at 7 every night, but now that she's 2, she's like, how I was going to sleep at 7 every night. Let's put a kibosh on that, and let's see how late I can stay up
Yeah, they say
before.
psych. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, so no, I mean, it's fun introducing her to stuff. She's been to a couple Western games. I think she went to her first one when she was like a week old. So
Nice.
she had the squishy little face and had the headphones on and everything. Um, but no, she'll come down here to the basement, want to play with the mini sticks and the mini goals that are set up in the other room, and smack
Nice.
me in the face with one. So we're trying to get her into it a little bit. She's picking it up here and there. Um, but I think like the more it seems to be, you're either a fan or you follow it on a different level. Like it seems to be that there's kind of a hard way to do both. Uh, at least that's what it sounds like when you listen to people talk about their sport of choice, what they follow, or whatever it may be. They stop sounding like a fan at some point. I was hoping that wasn't necessarily happening with you, that you did get still a chance to either follow the school you attended to, because that's where it seems like your love for the sport started, or we just got to be a fan in general from time to time. Because I think that's the one benefit that Mike and I have is we don't take this super seriously,
Yeah.
and for the most part we want to just be a voice of like the average fan for our schools, but talk about all the other schools too because we play against them.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely still love the Huskies and will want them to do super good every year, but I'm also a pretty like realistic fan where if they have a bad season like this year, for example, I'm not gonna be like, I don't know, the most disappointed of all time after the season ends. I'm pretty like, okay, well, wasn't good. I didn't like it, but we'll
Yeah,
reset. We'll do okay. So I try to be fairly realistic about it. I'll be really upset about it for a couple hours and then I'll kind of balance out, but still love watching games. Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
man,
no,
you
I
hold
mean,
grudges.
they started
I'm
out.
only upset for five minutes, and I'm like, whatever.
It
Yeah.
depends on how the game goes. I'm upset anywhere from 5 minutes to till the next game starts. I might still be pissed.
Kind of
You're,
easier sometimes when the season's just like a little worse because then if it's really close and you don't make the tournament or something, then it's
oh
almost
yeah,
like upsetting. So
Yep.
this year I kind of was like, it's okay. We've been on a downhill slide since like kind of Christmas break, so I didn't have my hopes high for the second half. So
I mean, they started out strong, and then as soon as Posh went down with the injury, it was like season over. They just couldn't get anything going, and he came back and wasn't quite the same player that he was. I mean, he got lit up, 3 different times by Western in Kalamazoo. So, just I don't think he's a fan of Lawson right now. I might be happy that that place is going away sooner. He doesn't have to play there as much. But yeah, that was a big loss for him. Um, like I said, it really as soon as he went down, their season went a completely different direction. Omaha kind of had the same thing. They were just losing guys right and left at the start of the season, and figured out a way to get those guys back and play better the second half. But somehow, Western was a one team that avoided a lot of the injury bug throughout
yeah,
most of the season, and really our downside was that we had Hampton go play at the World Juniors tournament.
yeah, for sure.
Downside,
Yeah.
as you have Cam.
Hey, Cam played great this year. One regulation loss in NCHC play. Uh, Undefeated in regulation at home, both Hampton and Cam. So
Hey, and
good year for Bronco goalies.
Coach Ferschweiler too. We had the Frozen Face-Off media call earlier, and he sounded like he couldn't say anything better about the two goalies you guys have. He just made it sound like they're both just such quality guys.
Oh, dude, they are. I mean,
So-
I haven't had the opportunity to meet Hampton yet, but Cam is one in a million. We had him on the pod a couple weeks ago, or I think at the start of the season,
Yeah, start of the season.
right before the season started. Great dude. He actually came up and kind of said goodbye right before the Saturday game against St. Cloud, which kind of blew me away. Um, but yeah, I mean, whoever gets him to sign a pro deal is going to get a special dude, both in the locker room and on the ice. And he's another guy who, if you look at the history of the transfer portal, benefited from coming to Western. I mean,
Yeah,
he had a great freshman year at Wisconsin. For whatever reason, there was a disconnect between him and the coach his sophomore year, and his numbers went down, his playing time went down, and he said, "All right, well, let's go find somewhere else." Western was the landing spot, and he's really turned his career around and had a great 3 years, and was an awesome mentor to Hampton this year. So another one of those guys that First has found in the transfer portal.
yeah. I mean, was he one of those guys too who maybe was the post Granado type stuff at Wisconsin? I know that probably was during his time too, or around that somewhere.
He
I know
was
a lot of the coaching change type stuff was.
I think so. I mean, I think he was goalie of the year in the Big Ten his freshman year. They won the
That
conference
time.
regular season. Cause,
Or
and I
maybe it was
think
the year after he transferred. I'm not sure, but it was.
yeah, it was close to that. I think it was the year he transferred.
because is this Hastings' third year, I think. Second or third year.
Second or
Yeah.
third, yeah.
So yeah, Cam would have been right in the end of the Granado era. And then Hastings decided to make Wisconsin Mankato of the East by taking all of his players.
Yeah, I just asked because yeah, I just talked to somebody who was also part of like the whole recruiting class because I know Granado had like a bunch of recruits for a long time, like the longest list of recruits, and then they all kind of got bumped around everywhere.
Yeah. But I mean, that just goes to like, because a lot of the people, I think they pull out the big names like Colangelo for Western Michigan, came in after a couple decent years at Northeastern, maybe a little bit of an off third year, comes in and blows it up at Western. Uh, it seems to be a spot where one, they do a really good job of getting guys out of the portal. They know what they're looking for and who they want. And then this year, I think it's a laundry list of guys who have rejuvenated their career by coming here and playing stellar hockey and not losing too many either. And then kind of North Dakota, they've been in there 4 straight years pulling a goalie out who's come in and had some success in North Dakota too. So
Yeah, the only one that really stands out though for North Dakota was person from coming from Miami to North Dakota last year. Everyone's like, this kid is a stud. He just needs a team around him to help him out. And then he was a stud last year. But I think Birch has that culture at Western, just from what I've seen, that the guys want to play for him and he can get the most out of them. And it's still one of the best period, or was it post game or was it in between period interviews?
post game.
A couple of years post game interviews when UMD played Western out there, and he's basically, I don't know what that first period was, but that wasn't hockey. We're putting the puck in their net, they're putting it in ours, they're putting it in their own net. Like, he was just like, that wasn't hockey. He was so mad. I think you guys won that game, but he was so mad that first period.
No, I think that's the one we lost in overtime. Or like right at the end of the game, you guys came out of the penalty box and like got behind the defense and fucking scored.
Oh,
Like we just
yeah,
blew the end of the
probably.
game. Like we were in an opportunity to do it and just mental lapse. Like I mean, the first 10 minutes of the game were a mental lapse on both sides. But I think that one we lost in overtime, and I think we won the Saturday game after that. Came out and played a little bit better. But yeah, no, he seems to be a guy that what you see is what you get. I think sometimes I'd like to see a little more urgency in certain game situations, but I mean, can't argue with the results right now. And if Western can find a way to win a couple big games here, I think they're going to be dangerous in the tournament.
I kind of want to go back to something Wes touched on with you being able to be a fan versus work, and then you brought up the state tournament. I mean, it was a super fun tournament this year. I
Oh yeah.
was My boss asked me if I was watching the games. I said no, but I had just turned on the Hibbing game.
Yeah.
Whoops. But is that hard to separate the enjoyment of watching the game versus you have a lot of these prospects that are committed and you're potentially watching them to write stories about them from their commitments, or kids that maybe have not committed yet and trying to scout them out, getting a feel for them and gathering information for the future. How hard is that to separate? Because I think I would get lost just watching the game. I wouldn't be able to pay attention to my work. How do you separate those two?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on what I have to do for the games because, for example, this year, the last couple years I've been in person at the state tournament, and then this year, since the Rink Live isn't a thing anymore, I was just doing like posting goal clips and stuff for Youth Hockey Hub and working for them. So I was just at home watching the games and posting like clips of, the crazy hair or like here's a crazy goal or stuff like that. So that's kind of one thing I do. But if I'm watching it to like specifically do kind of like a scouting analysis or something like that, or I'm trying to find who's the best player on the ice, I'm kind of just sitting and watching and not doing anything else. Or if I have to take photos, then I'm kind of focused on like a completely different thing because I can't really like be watching players and taking photos and tweeting at the same time, or like it would get way too chaotic. So some games it's like, okay, this game, if I'm only here to take pictures, I'm probably not going to be able to tell you who is super good besides who just scored the goals because I'm not going to be focused on that. I'm just going to be taking pictures. So I feel like I kind of have different versions of myself that watches games differently. If I'm just watching as like a fan, I watch it one way. If I'm like trying to write up something based on who I think the best player on the ice was, then I'm watching it a different way. And I don't know, you just get used to it, I guess, of like, okay, how am I watching the game today based on what I need to do like later, which is, I don't know. It's a lot, but just have to figure it out, I guess, depending on what I need to do for that game.
Yeah, no, I
Like,
mean, it makes a lot of sense because I've tried to do the whole live tweet a game thing a few times, and I got to a point where I'm like, I'm paying more attention to my phone
Yeah.
and the screen than I am the hockey game that's 6 feet in front of me because I sit right on the glass. Like,
Yeah.
so I've gotten to a point where I'm like, nope, I'm only tweeting Western goals. I don't even care if the other team scores or they're in the penalty box. Maybe I'll send one like, oh, it's 2-1 now because the other team scored.
Yeah.
But like I put it away. It's like, I don't need to live through a screen when the thing I'm talking about is happening in front of me. I'll watch it as a fan, and if anything stands out that I can talk about, cool, I'll do it later, or I'll go watch the replay and watch it as a different thing. But I want to be in the moment because that's why I like hockey. You have to be an in the moment thing, or for me, it's like I have to be in the moment to get the
Yeah.
most out of the experience, whether it's a good game, bad game, or I'm in like a crappy mood because hockey's kind of like one of my safe places. Like it's a spot that I go to when I need a little pick me up if I'm feeling like the dump's coming on or just had a
Yeah.
bad day or getting over a cold or something. That's where I want to be, is at a rink.
Hmm. For sure.
I do have to say, some of those skate ups this year were pretty fun
There's
from
a couple
the
weird
tournament.
ones this year. I don't even.
It-
I don't
so
know.
I'm not surprised. Like basically every Hibbing one, I am not surprised because I grew up in Eveleth,
Yeah.
and the kid that sprayed the camera, I used to ref with his dad. The
Yeah.
apple did not fall far from the tree on that kid.
Cool.
It makes sense. Had there were weird ones. The dudes in the Dumb and Dumber suits.
Oh, the managers were always good. Yeah. Hey,
It's
Hibbing had great like classic hair this year. They had good like long, just like you would look at him and be like, "Oh, are you in a Van Halen like cover band?" Nope, it's just hockey hair, but real good.
up there. They probably could be in a Van Halen cover band. I'm not gonna lie.
No. Yeah.
And the couple of guys that have come out of there, Scotty Perunovich and Adam Johnson, I both played summer tennis with them, so I'm very familiar with hitting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll have some Division One guys for sure here in the next few years.
and
100%.
the fact that they knocked off Hermantown to go to state, uh, that was pretty impressive, and was happy about that because Hermantown just gets annoying. Even though the head coach is a nice guy, I did a teaching practicum
He is a nice
underneath
guy.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pat's a great dude. Um, sorry, you guys have been to state enough.
Well, Hibbing's gonna be good for a while. A lot of their team's really young, so I don't think they're going anywhere for a little while now because a lot of their top guys, I was looking at roster, I'm like, oh, junior, freshman. Okay, you guys are gonna be good for a little while.
Yeah, and even up there, Rock Ridge, they've started to come on.
Oh,
I do not like that just because again, the Eveleth Virginia rivalry. I'm a
yeah,
proud Golden Bear. Screw the Blue Devils. But still watch that game, and they played a great game against Andover. Uh, I think they still would have gotten crushed, but still would have been kind of cool.
yeah.
Anything else, Wes? Because I do have one more question.
I
And
got.
it's not even one that you think.
Oh no, you're
So
good. You're good. I got two more. So when you see a player from St. Cloud enter the portal, the big one that comes to mind this year was Joey Molinar. Big name for St. Cloud the last few years. He makes the transfer up to Duluth.
smart man.
uh, do you take a second and go, that's kind of interesting. I wish you would have gone pro rather than join the dark side. Uh, or do you just look at it like, oh, it's just another guy making a business decision at this point?
Well, I mean, so far the past few years, St. Cloud's been pretty lucky, and they haven't really lost any like huge people to the portal, to be honest. And the guys
Wow.
that they have lost, I wasn't really surprised. Like they all kind of have their reasons, whether it's they want more playing time type thing, or just for whatever reason. I wasn't really surprised by the last couple of years, and they haven't lost a ton of huge names, which I'm hoping is the same this year after kind of a down year. It makes you a little more nervous going, well, I hope we don't have any of the big names that decide to transfer this year. But yeah, I don't know. We haven't had anybody like really big names. Like obviously, if you're a St. Cloud fan, everyone knew Joe Molinar, but he wasn't like our flashy leading scorer or anything like that. And
Right.
he had his COVID year left. So I don't blame any guys for doing their 4 years and then wanting to switch it up, go somewhere else, and go to a place like Duluth that, a great program, another NCHC team, not too far away from home for him either. And possibly try to maybe get some more playing time because he likely would have had the same role, I would assume, this year if he stayed one more year. So we've been pretty fortunate to not lose a ton in the portal, but we've also not brought in like a crazy amount either. So they've kind of been a little bit, a couple will leave, couple will come in, but nothing too crazy with the portal with St. Cloud over the past few years.
Yeah, no, I think this year was kind of the year that no one really stands out for going to St. Cloud. I mean, the last couple of years, you had Dominic Bassi, who came over from Colorado College, who ended up playing incredible for St. Cloud 2 years in a row, splitting the net with Castor, and then playing the majority last year before Posh took over at the end of the year. And then Grant Cruikshank, another Colorado College Tiger who transferred, I think, to Minnesota before transferring to St. Cloud State. But no, they've done a really good job of getting guys who've contributed to the team out of the portal too. It seems to be a lot more. I'm trying to think of a place that's really kind of lost in the portal. Maybe you could say North Dakota. I think a couple years ago they didn't do so hot. Maybe the big name was like the goalie they took that year, but last year they were deep in the portal and it turned out well for them, reestablishing their defensive core out of the portal. Um, we talk about Western being really good, Arizona State doing a great job. I guess Colorado College lost a bunch of fifth-year guys who couldn't go back to Colorado College. So I mean, there's a lot of storylines that play out in the transfer portal. But is there anybody who stands out in your mind that someone you followed early in their career, and then their college career turned out maybe differently than you thought, or they ended up somewhere you didn't necessarily expect? Because I think maybe one that might stand out would be Alex Bump, originally supposed to go to Vermont. They have a coaching change. He ends up at Western Michigan. Kid's an incredible player, lighting up the NCHC and controlling games, even if he's not on the score sheet most nights.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was cool that Bump ended up going to Western and kind of staying on the Western topic. Even I thought it was cool that you guys were able to pick up the Slukinski brothers too, because obviously as a Minnesotan, we know them very well and know that they're both really good players. Watched Hampton play high school a bunch. I watched Grant in the USHL for a while when I was covering that for the Rink Live a little bit. So knew they were both really good. So that was kind of cool to see them wind up at Western Michigan. But yeah, every year it's kind of crazy. I'll see guys that they might have played 1 year at one college, and I'll go, oh, okay, interesting. They're in the portal. We'll see where they end up. And I don't really have any specific examples off the top of my head that I can think of, but it's always nice to see a guy or a girl in the women's portal too. If they didn't have a great season the year before, I always am kind of cheering for them if they go somewhere new to hopefully have kind of just a fresh start and do better somewhere else. Just, I don't know, always cool to see that kind of story if maybe they didn't have the greatest year and then they find maybe a better fit for them and have a big year the next year. That always is a good thing because I think that's one of the positives of the transfer portal. If you're not just like transferring to transfer, but you're transferring for a good reason of finding just a better fit for yourself. I always like the positive stories from the portal, I guess.
Yeah, I know for sure. Uh, and to speak about Grant and Hampton, I think a lot of people would have thought the direct route was going to be North Dakota for them. I mean, their dad played there. They're from Warroad, which I'm sure is not too far from North Dakota. They
No.
probably followed more of that team than any other one. Grant's like, no, I'm going to go to Northern Michigan. Northern loses a coach in their entire team, and somehow Grant, he's an incredible player of his own, but he gets overlooked a little bit because of Hampton having made a name for himself in the USHL, the USA team, and then coming into Western and doing what he's doing. But if you asked Fersh, anytime the Slukinskis were brought up, he's also like, yeah, but we also got a really good forward in Grant. Like, let's not overlook Grant. And they wanted to be a team together. Like, they wanted their opportunity to play in college together, and it wasn't going to be, I don't think you were going to get just one without getting the other. So for them to both end up here and to have the season that each of them had, I think really worked out for everybody involved. And the mileage their parents have put on their car this year has been insane. And his mom has nerves of steel because she rotates ends of the ice with Hampton. I don't know if you
Jeez.
I don't know if you've watched a Western game, but they put a little hammer behind the net that he's on, and she sits behind the net somewhere and watches the entire period behind Hampton. It's like, and I know other goalie parents who are like, "Yeah, I'm at the opposite end of the ice. I'm watching our team
Yeah.
score. I'm not watching my kids stop pucks." Or they're like, "I'm at the game, but I'm in the lobby." Like,
Yeah, for
so,
sure.
so yeah, she has nerves as steel to watch Hampton play, and Hampton, comes through more often than not. So
Yeah.
they're an incredible family just to make that trip week in and week out. But all right,
Trying to
Mike, I
think.
will let you wrap us up here. We're getting
Hang
close to
on.
that hour mark.
Yep, I just gotta figure out one thing here. Sorry. Time out.
You were so prepared 5 minutes ago, and it all went to hell, huh?
No, I got distracted by another question, the transfer portal question. That's what I say. Oh, Isaac Howard was one of the players that I was thinking of that surprised me, who transferred out of UMD to go to Michigan State, where he was a prominent player on our team and decided to go to a Big Ten school, and it worked out for him. Yeah, I think it was a bit of a gamble potentially on his part, where you knew he was going to take an even bigger role as a sophomore this year. Uh, and he did that. He just did it somewhere else, and I was not particularly happy about that. Uh, but good for him. I'm happy for him. It's one of those things where, as a fan, you're like, "Mm, yeah, I wish you didn't do that." But I'm happy for the kid because he made the right choice. Okay, so I actually came up with a second question. The second one is completely unrelated to hockey, but
Okay.
the first one is, who, I guess three questions. Who have you gotten to work with that has made you kind of I guess the most starstruck, that you look at it and you're like, wow, I can't believe I'm getting to work with them. And the second part to that is, who have you worked with that you've just organically become friends with that you didn't quite expect that to happen?
Yeah,
Whether player or other person,
I
like
don't know if I've had
opponent.
a ton of those moments quite yet. I mean, I've been doing this job for a couple years, but I still feel like I'm pretty new to it sometimes because there's some guys who've been reporters for 20 years, so 20 plus 30, 40 years. So sometimes I still feel like I'm kind of a noob in the grand scheme of things. So I guess I don't have too many like really crazy high level people that I've met quite yet. I mean, anyone I work with that's, you know, I follow like everybody on Twitter, so just getting to, I don't know, work with anybody, I'm always honored, or any podcast, any person that has me on. Literally everybody I think is awesome, but I don't think I've met anyone that's like crazy, super famous type of person. I mean, I've been to some cool events. I was at like the PWHL Awards a year ago or two, which was kind of cool. I'm trying to remember. Oh, that one was really cool just because I got to be in the room with Billie Jean King, which was kind of cool. That's
Oh,
kind
that's awesome.
that's kind of like a legendary, obviously she's a legendary person. So I didn't get to like do a one-on-one with her or anything because she has like her own security. She's like a very high level person. So I mean, that'd be probably one of them that like my mom's a big tennis fan, so like I got to tell her, be like, I got to be in the same room as Billie Jean King. Like that's a very cool thing. So that's not really necessarily a hockey thing, but she's involved with the PWHL, so she was at a lot of that stuff. But I don't know, I haven't had a ton of those moments quite yet, but hopefully, if I stay in it, hopefully I'll meet some more high level people. Obviously, just meeting anybody that's ever played in the NHL, I think is awesome. Even if you've only played like one game, I'm still impressed by that. So, meeting anybody who's a former pro player is super cool. So, yeah, I don't know, honored to meet anybody, and hopefully I'll meet more people, but I'm down to work with anybody or meet anybody and all that stuff, and hopefully more moments are on the way.
Yeah, we're trying to build our resume of really cool people we've met. I think we're doing an all right job. We had the fastest skater in history on the pod before he was the fastest skater in history, Ethan Frank.
Hmm.
We had Sam Colangelo last year before he made his debut with the Ducks. So we've got had
Nice.
a couple NHLers before they were NHLers on here, and I think those guys stand out. I'm trying to think of who else really stands out. Brad, I mean, is a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah,
name
I
in
mean,
college
getting
hockey.
to work with Brad or when I was at the rink live, obviously Brad, everyone knows Brad. If you follow college
That
hockey, you
dude,
know him. So
that
that
dude
was
is an encyclopedia.
for the rink live to get to work with like him and Jess Myers and
Oh
McCadden,
yeah.
Matt Wellens, and we had a great team of everybody that when I first started working with them, I didn't feel like super I did not feel up to their level at all when I first started working there, but they're all super cool people and awesome and do great stuff.
Wes, you are forgetting the person who stands out the most, and I'm going to
Oh,
let him know.
our best buddy Trevor back here, Trevor Gorsuch.
Eh, We had him on, and
I think
he's with the Wichita Thunder, and we just message him whenever. He's been honestly no offense, but the best guest because we've been able to message him all throughout, and we ask him stupid questions, and he will give us a hard time. We'll give him a hard time
Yeah,
for whatever. He's just kind of one of our friends
that's
at
cool.
this point. And then my other question that is completely on hockey related is that a Fender and maybe an LTD bass behind you?
Yes, I have a Schecter and a
A
Fender
Schecter.
back.
Dang
This
it!
is
I should have known that.
my office room slash music room. So there's
What do
also
you, what?
just a Guitar Hero guitar on the other
Oh,
side.
well, there
hey,
you
there we
go.
go. I know more about that side of life.
Instrument.
That's the only guitar I
So
can play and top out it hard.
I have a
Cookies.
PRS myself, not the expensive one. But what do you like to play?
I don't have an unlimited budget for instruments. I just got the
Oh, I've had this thing since
yeah,
2011. So,
yeah.
but what do you like to play? What music do you like to play?
I'll play any, but I'm usually a just general rock person. I have a lot of instruments in here. I can't like shred on any of them, but I'm okay at most of them. I can play most instruments okay amount.
That
So
that's me too. Okay,
can't do
so
super crazy solos, but
we'll go top three favorite bands, and then we'll let you go. Just because you said rock, I love
sure.
rock.
Top three favorite bands. Number one, Ghost. Huge Ghost fan.
Yep, love Ghost.
I always tell everybody that Ghost. I don't know who else I would say for two and three. Ghost is my number one, depending on the day. I don't know for two and three. I'm maybe like Muse and like Green Day, but depends.
Okay.
I don't know. I listen to a lot of different stuff. I also listen to a lot of rap sometimes. So it depends on the day. I'll listen to whatever. I don't know, but yeah, I'm a big Ghost fan. That's my nerd band I nerd out on. So
Well, once we finish this up, I have two possible suggestions for you
okay.
of at least two of mine. But unless you have anything else, Wes, I'm done. I just saw the guitars. I was like, I have to ask because I love playing my guitar.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
all good, all good. No, I'm. I think I need to be done, and these need to be somewhere. I'm just gonna sit
Sure.
on. I'm
Thanks,
just
Ricky Bobby.
don't know what I'm doing with my hands. But no, I mean it's been about an hour. We try to average an hour most nights. Um, I'm sure big things are going to happen here, so we'll make sure to keep following along. Oh, actually, if you would like to tell us more about your new project, Clean Sheet Hockey, we'll wrap up on that one since I don't think we really talked about it other than saying that you were the founder of it at the beginning of the show.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, we
I'm just kind of getting started with all that stuff. So now that the Rink Live isn't a thing, I started my own website called Clean Sheet Hockey. Super easy to find. It's cleansheethockey.com. I just write a ton of player features. So if you have any prospects, players you want to know about, I'll write about them. And I also do a ton of data stuff, including like the transfer portal. And I also have, I believe, the only spreadsheets that have all of the women's hockey commitments for all of the NCAA. So if you like nerdy stuff, go on there. I have databases, I have stories, and it's only me. So it's only stuff that I do. So go on there. That's all my stuff. Otherwise, I have been working a lot with Youth Hockey Hub. So if you're a Minnesotan, they do all Minnesota stuff. So stay tuned for that stuff too. I'll be writing some stuff for them about Minnesotan stuff, but otherwise it's just cleansheethockey.com or on Twitter it's just at cleansheethky. So super easy to find.
Perfect.
That's
well,
an awesome name too. I'm just gonna throw it out there. That's
Thank
an
you. It
awesome
took a
name.
long time to try to think of something that wasn't stupid. So yeah.
yeah, we've been there. I think we're still there. I don't think we've gotten
Yeah,
away
we're
from the
still there.
stupid part yet. As
Hard
much.
to name stuff, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think that sports nerds are living their best life. Moneyball kind of put them in a new world. Analytics came out, and sports nerds have taken over the sports community. It's not just all about the players anymore. It's what we can figure out and know about them and how to best utilize them. So it's good to be a sports nerd at the moment, I think. Um, but you know where to find us. At least I hope so by now. If not, then welcome to the show. Our Twitter handles may be very, very small at the bottom of some of our pictures. I think they're also in the description. I don't know if I keep putting them there anymore or not. And if I don't, I keep forgetting to. So, there's been some stuff scrolling at the bottom of the screen. I don't even remember what's there anymore. There's a page Twitter handle and an email address, I think. But there's YouTube stuff you can do if you want to. If not, cool, whatever. Be an adult. Be an adult, make a decision. It's all good. Till the next episode, there's only one thing left to say. Pucks on net, good things happen, like goal horns and fight songs. Thank you once again, Sydney, for joining us. Make sure to check out her at all of the places that she mentioned. And we're out of here. Enjoy the tournaments. Bye-bye.